Anytime, any day. Why not right now? Stop looking up to your boss and start being your own boss. Don't work for paychecks. Work for dreams with no regrets. This is Cracking the Entrepreneur Code. If you have the passion, we'll create the blueprint. Now, your host. You know him from his 7 tips to build the business you always wanted, and now you're about to hear a lot more. Jack H.M. Wong.
Hey, Jack here, and welcome to Cracking the Entrepreneur Code podcast show. Starting from this episode, what happened is that I'm going to invite a lot of my new friends from different parts of the world who are successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and also author speakers. And they're coming to my show essentially to share with my audiences, which means you, some of the insights, experiences, and wisdom. So I'm very fortunate to have my first guest on the show by the name Mr. Tom Poland. And I'll just give you a little bit of the introduction, and then I'll invite Tom to do his own introduction. Tom Poland is an international best-selling author, and his specialty is what he calls marketing the invisible. He's going to share with us tonight the critical difference in between marketing a service or advice as opposed to a physical product, something that I'm very fascinated to look forward to. And he's going to pull back the curtain on some traditional marketing methods to avoid and some more effective alternatives for lead generation. So thank you, Tom. Thank you for coming to our show. How are you today?
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. It's a real privilege.
Yeah. So first of all, marketing the invisible. When you gave me the title of this show, there is something that I have questioned. What is invisible are we talking about? So I actually studied a little bit of your website, and I noticed that there is this thing that you talk about called Ladyology. And it seems that it's something, obviously, marketers, business owners all want to have leads. So can you share with us a bit more about what's Ladyology and what is this actually is?
Right. Well, Ladyology is the science of being in demand. You could say it's the science of generating leads. And the reason I created that word and then took the time and trouble to register it as a proprietary trademark internationally is that after some 37 years in sales and marketing and having niched in those who market the invisible, in other words, those who don't have a physical product, so they typically professional service providers or advisors or perhaps software developers, but it's not a physical thing. It's not a retail shop or a manufacturing shop or even a multi-level marketing. Mm-hmm. They're often consultants or corporate trainers or architects or CPAs, accountants, lawyers, etc. They all have that thing in common, is they don't have a tangible thing you can put in a box and ship off. It's a service. So having done marketing sales for so many years, I figured out that there was and having attended, and listened to some of the greats in marketing literally around the world and traveled around the world and sitting at the feet of the masters and constantly coming back and implementing, it took quite a while, but I figured that there was this fundamental gulf, like this massive gap between the marketing that works if you have a physical product and the marketing that works if you have a service or advice. Mm-hmm. And so whilst I started out offering marketing strategies and training and coaching and models to pretty much everyone out of business, it wasn't too long that I decided just to focus on marketing the invisible. And the difference, Jack, is that if you can imagine, well, the way I describe it is that marketing the invisible is more like proposing marriage than it is selling a car. And you could imagine, perhaps listeners could imagine wanting to buy a new car and they see the make and the model they want advertised in the paper, and, you take your best friend along and there's this shiny, almost new car in a driveway, and your best friend is taken along because they're an A-grade mechanic and they can have a look under the hood and check the engine and make sure the car's really, really a top car, and they turn to you and say, this is amazing. This is the best example of this sort of make and model of car I have ever seen, and he's selling it for about half the price that it should be selling for. And you think, oh my gosh. So you talk to the owner, and it turns out you have nothing in common with the owner. If you're a right-wing political supporter, they're left-wing. If you're, a Jew, they're a Muslim. Or if you're a Christian, I don't know. But whatever you have, they're the opposite. And they also appear to be a little sleazy and maybe a little racist and a little sexist. I don't know. Basically, you don't like this person, right? But do you still buy the car? Do you still buy the car? I know I would, because I don't have to enter into a relationship with this person. I just have to, it's a car, and the car is a great deal. But if you're a consultant or a coach or and even a software developer, anyone that enters into a longer-term relationship with a client, then it's far more like proposing marriage. And I'm now married to a woman whom I fell in love with at first sight. And I've often told the story, but it's true. It sounds a bit cliche, but I saw her across the other side of a crowded room, and the whole of the rest of the room, apart from her head and shoulders, went out of focus, opaque, like it was through a glass I couldn't see through, but all I could see. And I was gone. I was completely smitten. And I really could have gone up to her and said, "Hi, would you marry me? My name's Tom."
Okay.
And that obviously wouldn't work. Yeah.
Yep.
But so that's like kind of selling a car. It's like, here's a great car. Do you want to buy it? It's half the price it should be. And yeah, sure, I'll buy that. But when we are marketing the invisible, services, advice, or software, we need some dates, or at least I should say, even if we fall in love at first sight, like I did, my wife needed some dates, right? I had to kick her out, and I had to I had to get her the opportunity to get to know me, and so on and so on and so on. And 1 year later to the day, actually, incidentally, after I met her, I proposed on a beach. We had dinner on a beach, and there was candles, and there was soft music, and I wrote a poem, and it was kind of appropriate. It was on a beach because she looked like a fish that had just been pulled out of the water. No, the jaw was opening, but no words were coming out after I proposed. Anyway, not saying my value proposition was bad, but people kind of laugh at that story and say, well, yeah, of course you would have been stupid if you'd gone up and proposed marriage at first sight. But how often do we meet a prospective client and expect them to, business-wise, jump into bed with us? Quite often. Mm-hmm. So we got to give our prospective clients some dating opportunities. That's effectively what I'm saying. And 3% of, if you're a consultant, a coach, a trainer, a CPA, and you present something, maybe it's a webinar or people read your book or you have a lunch and learn or, they come to your website and download something, a series of videos or something, 3% of the people in that audience, all those audiences will buy immediately. They're what I call the seekers. Mm-hmm. But that's only 3%. And that's what I used to market to. Do you want to buy this? Yes, no, bang, next, please. 12% are explorers. And those explorers, it's kind of like giving them the dates, and they need 5 dates or 5 exposures to our brand before they're ready to buy. But they do have an intention to buy. The other 85% are wanderers. They have no intention to buy currently. But if we give them something valuable, one day we might be able to shift them from being a wanderer to being an explorer and being a seeker. It's a lot to throw at you, I know, but does it make sense?
Well, it makes sense. It's like I personally met my wife in 1990. That was a very long time ago, but it took us 5.5 years of the dating before I proposed to her. So I can relate to you. It's very rare in our culture, especially to have a love at the first sight and then ask for marriage. It's like, I know Indian race has this kind of blind date marriage, but other than this, I never heard of any of my friends who actually have love at first sight and propose marriage immediately. So I'm totally relating with what you have just said.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And and unfortunately, it's this short-termism, this idea that, gee, I've just found someone who would be an ideal client, and let's see if they'll do business with me. Here's the deal. Here's the proposal. And we wonder why they say, well, let me think about it. Because it's kind of like proposing on the first date. It's like, I think I have to think about this. Mm-hmm. And that's not unreasonable. So in this, we have a marketing model which not only identifies the 3% that are ready to buy now and gives them what they need, which is the facility to buy quickly and easily and smoothly, but also a model which says that recognizes that we can multiply by 5 our new sales if we cater for the 12%, the explorers, because they want 5 exposures to our brand. And I've seen this. We use Infusionsoft, which is a reasonably sophisticated online CRM, customer relationship manager. We can see someone who comes to the website, maybe they bought my book, perhaps on Amazon, Ladyology, the Science of Being Demand, and they've come from here to the website. They've downloaded the 10-part model, which I believe you've also seen. They come back, the same afternoon, do a diagnostic. They come back the next day, they do a webinar, an evergreen webinar. A week later, they come to our boot camp, or a week later, and then they buy. And I average, it's 5 exposures or experiences of our brand before we can shift them from the explorers, the 12%, open-mindedly skeptical. They're open-mindedly skeptical. And everything that we put online should be catering for the open-mindedly skeptical and move them from that position of being open-minded but skeptical to a position where they want to talk with us.
Okay. It sounds very interesting because to me, again, like I'm a consultant, so I can relate. Like first time if I ask for a sale, it would never happen unless the person basically knows me. So it takes a while from meeting, calls, appointments before the person finally, okay, I want to do serious business with you now. So the explorer, I have lots of explorer because in the market, I can understand that there are lots of people offering similar services. So we talk about how do we stand out from the sea of sameness, and in order to get the client to, okay, finally trust me that I'm the unique logical choice for providing such services. So how does it actually work? Like what would the consultant, like if the consultant has this problem of lead generation, how would that person be able to apply to your model and to get some traffic and some sales from the prospective
terrific
customers?
Question, because because so far we've really talked about concepts and principles. So here's the ultimate in lead generation. As a consultant or trainer or whoever you are, you wake up on a Monday morning and you open up your calendar, you've got your coffee and tea or whatever, and you're having a look at your calendar for the week, and you see there are 3, 5, 7, however many bookings that have been made by potential clients. These are people who understand the range of your fees. They have a bit of an idea of how you work with clients, and they certainly know what it is you do. And they have booked a time to talk with you, and you wake up Monday morning, those bookings are there in the calendar. So that's the ultimate lead generation. That's what we do. We don't go chasing people for leads. We don't do any outbound marketing. There's no Ladyology. It's all inbound. There's no cold calling. There's no sending out 10,000 letterbox flyers or direct mailers. There's no business networking meetings. There is none of that outbound stuff. It's all inbound.
Right.
And I'll dive down a bit more specifically, but just before I do that, imagine this forest full of bears, because this little analogy describes Ladyology pretty well. And there's all these bears are in the forest and they're sleeping. And you want them to eat your honey. You have these honey pots, and you want the bears to eat your honey. So the bears are a metaphor for an ideal client, and the honey pot's a metaphor for your service. So you got a couple of options. Think about it. How do you get the bears to eat your honey? Well, you can grab a sharp stick and you can go running through the forest, yelling and screaming, and you can find a bear, jab it in the backside with a sharp stick and wake it up. And if the bear's hunger exceeds its anger, you get to love and it eats the honey. That's called cold calling. That's called going to a business networking meeting and furiously handing out business cards to people who you have no idea if they're hungry for your honey or not. It's sending out 10,000 direct mail letters. It's anything that's outbound that has failed to identify if this particular bear is hungry or if this particular prospect is actually aware of the need for your product or service. So metaphorically speaking, or analogy-wise, that's what it looks like. If we drill down, what it looks like, most of my clients do 3 things every single week. Every single week, and I can tell you what these things are in a moment in more detail if you want, but every single week they do something that grows their list. Your email list is the most fundamentally valuable asset you have.
Absolutely.
It's the most valuable asset.
Yep.
And if we look at wealthy people, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, whoever, Richard Branson, they all have assets. And in business, it's exactly the same. The wealthiest business people have assets. So one of the assets is our list, our email list. So every single week they do something to build their list that gets more subscribers on the list. Every single week they do something that keeps their brand in the brain until people are ready to buy. So that list they've got, that list, every single person on that list gets an opportunity to engage with something that keeps my client's brand in their brain until they buy. So BBB, I call that. And that's often an interview like you're doing now. Like this is a really good example of BBB, brand in the brain to ready to buy. Your brand's going to stay in someone podcast or audience's brains, and they're going to keep your brand in their brain, which is terrific. And so they do that something like that once a week. And every single week, there's also what we call it in marketing a CTA, a call to action. So there is something where people, a group of people in this case, are exposed to, would you like to go to www.bookachatwithtom.com and let's talk about you becoming a client.
Right.
That call is not a sales ambush, and it's not a coaching call. It's simply to see if this person who has made the booking, that's what I talked about before, waking up Monday morning, bookings in your calendar, someone's clicked, that person is simply hoping that they might be a fit for your services.
Okay.
And effective marketing completely eliminates the need for selling. No sales required, no manipulative techniques, just see if we've got a fit. Because they already, what this effective marketing does is they've already experienced your brand, whether it's the once or the 5 times they need to, then they're ready to propose marriage, or listen to you propose marriage perhaps, and they know your fees, and they know how you work with people, and they know what the result is. They're just hoping that they're a fit for what you've got. That's what good marketing does.
This is very interesting.
Physically,
to me, thank you, Tom. Really is great stuff, because to me, like, lead generation is by far the most painful problems of a lot of the experts, I mean the consultants, the coaches, and what you've just said makes perfect sense. And I like you mentioned the word asset, because a lot of people actually do not realize that email list is actually the most valuable asset in our service business. No email, that's it. Especially when Facebook has changed the algorithm at the beginning of this year, a lot of people actually have panic as to what to do. I mean, can Facebook still be my way of marketing? A lot of people panic. And I got one of my coaches actually said, have you been actively building your email list? And most people actually said no, because they don't realize that I'm letting someone to control me if I'm using social media that way. Whereas if you have the email list, it's actually your asset. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. So thank you for actually reminding us this very important concept of having this email list. Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
Yeah. So what would be the way, like most classic problems that you have seen from your years of experience in looking at the consultants, the coaches, these experts? What are the classic problems or mistakes they have made so that they got this lead generation problem? What did they do wrong, actually? If you were just summarize a few.
Well, the first one, and you've already mentioned it, is a lack of differentiation.
Right.
So if I just sent I was speaking with an accountant the other day, a multi-partner firm, fairly big, national firm, etc.
Okay.
And, I said to him, well, let's have a look at your website. And, it's the same deal, customer service, we're passionate about numbers, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, really, it's from an accounts. It's what we would call a name, rank, and serial website. Yep. There is no differentiation on there whatsoever. And it's pretty much true of business coaches who will say, let's double your business, or let's free up your time, or let's, increase your revenue, or let's get your, executive coaches or trainers, let's get your people engaged, let's get increased productivity. They're all generic terms.
Yep.
And if you, so what the first thing, one of the very first things we do with every single client is we differentiate them. We get them to come up. We get them to make the book cover look like the book.
Okay.
Because what I'll explain. So I've got a client in London, Paul, who's now got a business called Techquisition. It didn't used to be called that, but we created the term Techquisition because he helps really big companies, like billion-dollar companies, acquire technology companies. And he's got a lot of competition from the likes of PwC and Cooper's Library and all the rest of it. But there's only one person in the world now with Techquisition. So we've created the name, we've registered that, just like I'd registered Ladyology and created a Ladyology model. There's a Techquisition model, there's a Heartwired model. There's models now springing up all over the world. And that's what immediately differentiates Paul from all his competitors who use the same terminology as each other on the website and meetings. And Paul, if you want Techquisition, if you want that strategy, you want his expertise and that methodology, Paul is he has effectively eliminated all direct competitors.
Yeah, there's a very strong branding. Techquisition is a brilliant name. Good job, man. Really.
Yeah, thanks. So that's the start of it.
Yeah,
is this differentiation? As I often say to clients, you may not feel it is, but your service is unique. Whatever it is you do, you will do it uniquely, and you cannot do anything else other than do it uniquely. Because what brought you to this place currently where you're delivering this expertise is a unique set of experiences, and your DNA is unique.
Yeah.
So the problem at the moment is it's like your ideal client is standing in front of this massive bookshelf, and all your competitors' books are up there, and yours is kind of in the middle of it, and they're searching for the best book, metaphorically speaking. In other words, searching for the best service. And you're standing next to them or slightly behind you thinking, gosh, I hope he picks my book. And he doesn't. He picks someone else's book. So you say to him, hey, I'm just wondering, why didn't you pick my book? And he said, well, which one's yours? He said, that one up there, that one up there. And he said, well, to be honest with you, the cover looks the same as everyone else's. And you say, yeah, but what's inside is really, really different. I said, well, yeah, but I can't see that.
Yeah.
So good marketing makes that invisible visible. And we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but we do.
We do, yes, agree.
So
yes.
That's one big mistake is a failure to overtly differentiate, and I don't just mean, fancy colors on the website. I mean proprietary terminology and models, etc. Another one is to say, look, here's the 7 things we specialize in. And, trainers and coaches and executives, consultants particularly, are all very guilty of this. Classic client, Susan, is a client in Canada, and she had 14 things specialties on her website.
Wow.
Things like Six Sigma. And by the way, she was very, very good at all of them, very experienced and international operator. Right. So things like Six Sigma, 360s, performance appraisals, productivity, engagement, human dynamics. I didn't even know what that is, but she could do it apparently. Right. And the very first meeting I had, we said, well, let's look at your website. And I said, okay. We went through all 14. I said, pick one. She said, what do you mean pick one?
So you can't pick one.
Pick one.
Yes.
Because we cannot market 14 things.
Exactly.
And so we figured out the thing that was going to be the easiest to market. We created a message. We figured out how we get the message to the market. And everything else goes off a website. Everything else goes off a business card. Everything else goes off her LinkedIn profile. Everything else from all over the internet, as far as humanly possible, disappears apart from that one thing.
Yep.
Because as soon as you position yourself as a specialist, you increase demand.
This is great advice.
So
I'm guilty of this also, because I consider myself multiple skills, multiple talents. And I've got the message from one of my peers in the past, Jack, what exactly do you do? I'm totally lost. So yes, I was one of them before. So I said, okay, let me string down to one thing that I decide to focus on. So I'm talking about sales. So, okay, that is
fantastic.
This is the subject matter I will talk about relentlessly, frequently.
Fantastic.
So I'm with you. Yes.
Yeah, terrific.
Yep.
So there's.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so coming back to your book, you mentioned in your book a formula called the titanium triangle. So can you share with my audiences what this triangle is about? Right.
The titanium triangle, I coined that phrase because titanium is incredibly tough and it's more valuable than gold. So it figured that was a useful metaphor. The triangle has 3 sides. And it's exactly what I mentioned before, is that the gold standard, what I seek to achieve it most weeks of the year, probably 50 out of 52 weeks, is every single, and I'll give you more specific examples, but every single week we do something to build the list. Every single week we do something to keep our brain and people's brain ready to buy. And every single week there's a group of people that are taken through what I call a persuasion sequence. From open-minded skepticism, we take them through a process of what I call the 4 hours of relationship influence, where we establish rapport, we establish respect, we establish relatability, which is a big one that most people miss when they're doing a presentation or writing a book or a special report or whatever. And finally, the reciprocity, which is where people feel like they would prefer to work with us than anyone else. So every single week, those 3 things happen. The list is building. The brand and the brain until ready to buy is being developed, and there is a call to action, which for most of my clients means click here to book a time to talk with me about becoming a client. So that's the titanium triangle, because I got sick of playing marketing with a pair of twos. There's the old saying. I mean, can you even a blind squirrel finds an acorn in the forest once in a while, but you don't want to rely on pure dumb luck if your financial future is dependent on your ability to generate leads you really want to quit the random acts of marketing and have something that's more systemized.
Okay. Sounds great, because again, this is about when I get a client, first of all, a prospect, the first thing is to get an understanding of what the prospect is about and nurture until the trust is built, and that's how the sales is coming. Without trust, without brand, there's no sales at all. I mean, the process just doesn't work.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Because we're not selling a car, we're proposing marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, I got a question also. This is about the leads, and it says that you have this thing called the multiple streams of leads. So can you share with us what this is about?
Sure. Well, Ladyology, like everything else, I suppose, is evolved. And in the second book, I introduced a concept called lead streams. And a stream of leads is probably pretty self-evident. People are, as I said before, clicking on a link, booking a time to talk with you, and about becoming a client and so on. So we know from the likes of Warren Buffett that we shouldn't put all our money in one basket. We should diversify investments. There's security in diversification. And that's exactly the same when we're looking for a flow of leads. And a lead stream, a bit like a physical stream, there's a flow of water in a physical stream. Here, there is a flow of leads. So what I like to do is set up 3 different lead streams for each client. Or I should say I advise clients to set up 3 different lead streams. So, for example, and a lead stream, by the way, consists of 2 things: an asset plus an audience.
Okay.
Asset plus audience equals lead stream. For example, last Friday morning, I ran a webinar for someone else's network, and the presentation that I put together for that is an asset. The audience came from what I call OPN, other people's network, someone else's network. So when we put a webinar together with someone else's audience, we have a lead stream. And when we make that systemized so that the identification of that potential host and the engagement with that potential host and the relationship with that potential host is nurtured to the point where they invite you in to present, that becomes systemized, then that sort of presentation, that sort of lead stream generates leads every single week of the year. In another one that we do, and the asset has to match the audience. That's the thing. So if I have a client, for example, I can think of Derek, who's got a business called Taste Emotions, and his target market are some of the world's largest food corporations like Coca-Cola and Heinz and so on. And so running a webinar for the vice president of Coca-Cola, who contacted him and asked him if they could meet, which is very nice, inbound lead, is a complete waste of time because these people are too time stressed and too time poor. So if we're offering webinars to corporate execs who are CEOs and VPs of some of the largest companies, that's not matching the asset to the audience. It's like I got Monty, my marketing wonder dog. He's a border collie. His dinner bowl's out the backyard, and I've got beehives. And it would be like putting a beautiful bunch of flowers in Monty's dinner bowl. You could imagine this dog looking up at me with his ears all cocked and his eyes going, "Are you crazy?" I mean, that's going to be a hard sell. But if I shift that bunch of flowers in front of the beehive, they're all over it. And that's what happens when you match the asset to the audience. It eliminates the need for selling because the right audience is attracted to it. I'll tell you another one, though, Jack, which is really taking off. And I spent all of last year developing this and perfecting it. It's what I call boardroom briefings.
Wow.
And boardroom briefings work great for small business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as corporate execs. So this is an online video conference. It's webcams on. There's no more than 6 people on the call. And as soon as we stop calling these things webinars and started calling them boardroom briefings, and as soon as we started handpicking invitees, that's when we started getting traction.
Wow.
Because if you get a VP and a CEO, I mean, at the webinar, you're like sitting in a conference room of 300 people. You put your hand up, who's going to see it?
Nope.
But when you have, when I do a boardroom briefing, I've typically got people from 4 or 5 different countries, and they're introducing each other. The webcams are on. They're getting to know each other. It's very intimate. It's very exclusive. It's much higher engagement levels, and they're generating really solid new client inquiries at a ratio that we would never expect from webinars. So there's a little specific thing that your listeners can take away and hopefully gain some value from.
I personally have taken this goodie away because webinar is actually one of the common ways the consultants and coaches get the clients. But what you said is actually blowing my mind. It's not a webinar. A webinar is what you call the boardroom briefing, intimacy, connection so that people trust each other, people can feel the connection and get clients that way. Oh my God, you have blown my mind actually. Thank you for sharing this wonderful tip. I love that. Okay, so I think
all about getting the right asset in front of the right audience, and there's a lot more, but unfortunately we probably don't have time for that.
Yeah, so I want to ask my audiences to get to know you better, where they can actually find you or look for your books. Is there any website or is there anything you can share with us? Where can the audiences find you?
Well, I'll give you a couple. One is our main website, which is www.leadsology, leadsology.guru.
Yep.
And the other one, which is something we set up last year, and it's just proved really, really popular. It's a 5-hour lead generation challenge, and it's completely free. People just go to www.5hourchallenge.com, and that's the word 5hourchallenge.com. It's a completely free course. It takes 1 hour a day over 5 days to generate 5 fresh leads, and the goal is to generate 1 fee-paying client out of that. Completely free. Go get it.
Okay, so it's 5hourchallenge.com.
That's it.
Okay, sounds good. And really enjoying, I'm so glad to have you as my very first guest on my show, because that is going to set the standard for the future guests, I believe. And most importantly, it's no longer Jack Wong's content, it's the wisdom of my guests like you. And really very thankful for coming and share with us your experiences in sales, in lead generation, in marketing. If there's one thing that I would just want to say about this interview, although I see it's already half an hour, one thing that I see is that lead generation, well, everyone talks about lead generation as being important. What you have done so far that has blown my mind is that you actually have come up with a very unique angle of tackling this, what I would call the lead generation problem. And you are tackling to a very specific group of people, which is basically us. So I love what you have done. I love what you have shared with my people. I'm sure I will get my peers to go to the 5hourchallenge.com and learn a lot from you. So that's what really, really, speaking from my heart, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Tom. Really, thank you.
Thanks so much, Jack, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yes, so that concludes our very first episode from our guest, Tom Poland, Ladyology. And for any future requests of guests, please let me know. If there's somebody who can really fit my agenda and my audiences, let me know. I may do my best to invite them on the show. Once again, thanks for listening to this episode, and bye for now.
To continue cracking the entrepreneur code, subscribe for more episodes and download the Amazon bestseller, Cracking the Entrepreneur Code, 7 Tips to Build the Business You Always Wanted at crackingentrepreneur.com. Learn more about author and host Jack H.M. Wong and book your 30-minute discovery session to overcome any professional challenge at jackhmwong.com/apply.